That's great, Corey. Our next speaker can probably help guide you through that journey of self-exploration. You might recognize him from the Writer Makerspace Creative Technology Lab, Arcana, or Students for Justice in Palestine.
You may also know him from his past positions on the Entrepreneurship Club, the Arabic Student Association, and Scout. Please welcome to the stage Palestinian Filipino American speaker Ahmad Shehadeh.
Hello, I'm gonna need like a couple minutes, not gonna lie. Okay. So, wait, how do I change it? Do I just click on the mouse? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay, so hello, I'm Ahmad. So the title of my thing is Triple-Colonized, a story of identity and resilience. Right. What's the next one? Right. Cool. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Ahmad Shehadeh. I use he, him pronouns, and I want to start by saying thank you all for being here today to support me and the other amazing PAACx speakers. Before I start, I want to give trigger warnings to some of the slides I'm presenting today. There is no blood or gore that will be shown, but rather the destruction of Palestinian infrastructure. Today, I will tell you about my story and how it's relevant to global issues today. To provide context, I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, right there, beautiful, we love her. Where was I? Oh, my mother is Filipino and my father is Palestinian. And the Windy City is where my parents met. They both migrated to America in hopes of a better life. However, that reason was caused by American imperialism, colonization, and destabilization of their respective countries. Before I dive into my personal experiences, I want to discuss my parents' backgrounds. Perfect. Okay, so my mom's family is from Nueva Vizcaya province in the Philippines, specifically the areas of Solano and Villa Verde. My family owns a small farm where they grow their own crops and live in a very community-based area. My mom, some of her siblings, and my grandparents all started to migrate to Chicago in the 1980s. This was because my mom's family wanted new opportunities, a change of lifestyle, and to support the rest of my family in the Philippines financially. Today, my mom's family is spread across the Philippines and America. So moving on to my dad's side. Okay, it changed. Cool. So my dad's family is from the town of Lifda, which is about a 15-minute drive from the city of Palestine, or the city of Jerusalem in Palestine. So Lifda is one of the 384 Palestinian communities that were depopulated during the first Nakba, but haven't been built over. So on December 31st, 1947, all 2,550 Palestinian residents of Lifda were forcibly displaced by the Israeli occupation forces. This included my grandparents, who resettled in Jerusalem, then eventually Amman, Jordan. My grandparents were forced to leave Jerusalem due to living under apartheid, which led to a restriction of their rights, movement, and access to food and water via the IOF checkpoints. I will get more into detail about my personal experience with the checkpoints later. Today, my dad's family is spread out across Palestine, which includes the West Bank and Gaza, Jordan, and America. Okay, so my parents divorced while I was young, and thus I lived with my mom and her family in a single-story apartment in the Albany Park neighborhood of Chicago. It was one of the most diverse neighborhoods in all of Chicago, which allowed me to develop cultural sensibility from a young age. In my neighborhood, there were many cultures that varied from Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Indians, and much more. Being exposed to many different cultures at a young age was a blessing. I was able to try a wide variety of delicious cultural foods and participate in many different cultural events with friends, such as quinceañeras, Dia de los Muertos, debut, and more. I would often visit my dad's house on breaks and weekends. My dad resides in a neighborhood titled Bridgeview, which is also known as Little Palestine. The neighborhood is a safe space for many of the refugees who've had to flee their countries from the Swana regions. Oh, wait, that's not it. Losin? Damn. Okay, wait, I'm gonna have to do some skipping back. So, This is the SWANA region. So the SWANA stands for Southwest Asia and Northern Africa, containing countries such as Somalia, Sudan, Palestine, Afghanistan, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and more. I didn't realize it while I was growing up, but this neighborhood holds a special place in my heart. I get to experience firsthand the beauty of SWANA cultures and hospitality. Prior to my parents' divorce, I went to Al-Aqsa preschool in the Bridgeview neighborhood, and I would remember how my classmates and teachers would ask me where I'm from, because at the time it wasn't common to see someone that was mixed. However, everyone at the school was very respectful, which is something I will always appreciate. Okay, so when I moved into my grandma's apartment for kindergarten until high school, it was a change in environment. I was no longer in the friendly suburbs that allowed kids to play until very late outside. I was now living in Chicago, which was much more stimulating and unsafe. I lived with up to 12 family members at one point on a single floor in an apartment. Many people may think that's crazy, but looking back at it, it was amazing. I was able to grow up with my Filipino cousins, ate amazing food cooked by my grandma and other family members, and got to go to elementary school with some of my cousins. So, wait, now I gotta go switch the little slides. Oh, wait. Okay. So, yeah. So in second grade, my class had an activity where everyone had to put a pin on a map indicating where everyone's families were from. I remember going up and finding the Philippines, but when I searched for Palestine on the map, it said Israel. Imagine you're a little kid wondering why the country in which your dad was from wasn't on the map. Everyone had their countries on the map except for me. After this experience, I then started to get curious and question things such as, why are we living in America? Who is Israel? Cool. So, in 2014, me and my father traveled to Jordan. I went to visit my dad's family for the first time. The goal of the 3.5-month trip was to get to know my dad's side of the family and to immerse myself in Palestinian culture. I was able to travel to amazing places such as Wadi Rum, Petra, the Dead Sea, Amman, and much more. At the time, my Arabic was not the best. However, I was able to pick up a good amount of Levant Arabic prior to my return to the United States. During my time in Jordan, me and my father wanted to visit our family in the West Bank and possibly Gaza. However, while we tried going to the West Bank via the IOF checkpoints, me and my dad were denied access due to the fact that our names sounded quote-unquote Arab and quote-unquote possibly Palestinian, despite us having American passports. Many Palestinians know that once they leave Palestine, it's almost impossible to return due to the IOF checkpoints. This is why many Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank refuse to leave. It's their form of resistance. The Palestinians that do leave hope to return once the occupation ends. I wish that we could have flown into Gaza to visit our family at the time. However, oh wait, this is the IOF checkpoint, by the way. So this is what it's like to be walking through these dehumanizing little things. Moving on. So this is what the Gaza airport looked like, right? So, hold on. I wish that we could have flown into Gaza to visit our family at the time. However, Gaza's Yasser Arafat International Airport was bombed in February 2021 by Israel using US-funded bombs. So this is the before, this is the after. It was bombed in February 2001, and the airport was only operating for a little under 3 years. And because the progression and development of Palestinian society is seen as a threat to the oppressors, they decide to bomb anything that signifies Palestinian progression. As I grew older and learned more about my background, I focused my attention on my academics and creating art. I've been creating art since I was a child. Making my own little worlds was something that I enjoyed. I remember in 4th grade, I had to fill out a form, and on that form, you had to check the box that had your ethnicity. So I checked Asian, which included the Philippines, and that was explicitly stated. And when I kept looking on the page, another option was white or Middle Eastern. It was in the same checkbox. And I was like, I'm not white. So I checked the other option and wrote Middle Eastern, because I do not get the white privilege to be labeled as white. This is a common practice amongst many Middle Eastern people in the US. One thing that has always motivated me to work hard was that I had to represent Palestine and the Philippines. I had to represent my family. So I worked very hard to get to where I am today. Right after the 8th grade is when I got my first job. I was 14 years old at the time. I continuously chose to work in high school at an art gallery while also participating in extracurriculars such as student council, volleyball, and more. I ended up being valedictorian of my high school class in Chicago, which allowed me to receive a full ride scholarship at Northeastern University. Oh, I'm just gonna leave this up. So I'm gonna keep going. So what do I mean by triple-colonized? When I speak of the term triple-colonized, it represents how 3 different forms of colonization impacted my identity and my family. The Philippines was colonized by Spain in 1565 until 1898. This has led to a loss of traditional Filipino indigenous traditions as cultures became ethnically cleansed and were replaced with Christianity and Catholicism from Spain. After Spain, hold on. I've been getting lost, my bad. After Spain, the Philippines was under US control. It wasn't until 1946 where the Philippines gained independence and was its own country. Palestine was colonized by the creation of Israel in 1948 and is still colonized until this day. Many Palestinians live under apartheid and are systematically oppressed. And then the third thing is living in America is another form of colonization, as this nation was built on the bodies of Native Americans. Many people in America will overlook that fact and that America is Native American land. I don't know if hold on. Okay, the slides are low-key out of order. I'm just gonna tap through. So, this is, yeah. And then, so currently there are 9 U.S. military bases in the Philippines, which is used to prevent invasion from the east. However, if you look at their other quote-unquote territories, it includes Samoa, Guam, Hawaii, where they're not given the same rights, and indigenous people of those territories aren't given the same rights as Americans. And coming to Northeastern for college was a huge culture shock to me, because most people that attend this university, most people that attend this university are financially privileged and come from a line of successful families who are doctors, engineers, and so forth. I quickly realized that I'm not like most people at this university. I'm a low-income, first-generation, multiracial college student. There are countless stories that I can talk about my experience here over the past 4 years. But I want to dive into specifically, since October 7th of 2023, it's been a lot harder for me to form deeper connections with people due to the fact that many people choose not to inform themselves on what's happening in Palestine. Many people have the privilege to look away and turn a blind eye, while the people of Palestine simply cannot turn the genocide off. Taking Islamophobia and colorism into account, Asian American consciousness will often exclude Palestine and other quote-unquote Arabs. This is because quote-unquote Arabs don't seem to fit the typical East Asian standard. Arabs have been dehumanized for so long, and it's apparent to this day. Is this why many of us are now silencing ourselves on the question of Palestine? Because we are part of Imperial America? The more American we become, the more we may affirm the country's settler colonialism with our silence about how we can be citizens and colonizers all at the same time. The condition of our belonging, our inclusion, is our silence. Hold on, made it click. Oh, okay. So, the genocide in Gaza cannot be overlooked. As a Palestinian, it's my duty to speak up for my people, especially since I have the privilege of living in America. American tax dollars are spent on funding Israel's healthcare system and Israel's military, including weapons, instead of being reinvested into our communities. And this is apparent today because in Atlanta, Georgia, there has been $9 billion worth of reparations that are needed, and on that same day, the flooding that happened in Atlanta, they sent $9 billion of aid to Israel rather than reinvesting that into our communities. And according to the Oxfam analysis, the estimated death toll in Gaza is surpassing 200,000 people. I'm going to come back to this. It's kind of out of order, so apologies. So I'm just going to be showing some photos of what's going on right now. There are still tens of thousands of bodies that are covered by rubble. Due to the forced starvation imposed by the colonizers and the destruction of the healthcare system, many more Palestinians are expected to be killed. Bombing all of Gaza's hospitals resulted in wounded Palestinians receiving no help. Just more photos of the destruction. Damn, this is so out of order. I'm trying to find the hospitals. I'll come back. Damn, it's so out of order. Okay, you know what? We're gonna go back. Apologies. And anyway, back here. So, okay. I'm back. So, bombing all of Gaza's hospitals has resulted in many wounded Palestinians receiving no help, especially since many of Gaza's doctors and nurses have been tortured and killed and targeted systematically. Gaza is home to 2.3 million Palestinians, and the fact that Israel gets to bomb the whole strip and get away with it with no repercussions is not okay. If Europe's beloved Paris got bombed, the world would be talking about it and would immediately try to do something about it. However, when the Paris of the Middle East gets bombed, society turns a blind eye. And it's crazy because it does really impact us. As we know, climate change does exist, and now more than ever, we are experiencing and seeing it in real time. The amount of carbon emissions released by all of the Israeli bombing contributes to climate change. We need to start opening our eyes and pay attention to what's going on around the world. Some may say that this has recently started, but the genocide and the oppression of Palestinian people, however, I will pick that up in 2 seconds. I'll just do it now. Sorry. Okay. Some people may say that this has just recently started. The genocide and oppression of the Palestinian people, however, it is not recently started, sorry. My family that has been living in both Gaza and the West Bank have had limited access to water and movement. In 1967, the Israeli authorities issued Military Order 158, which stated that Palestinians could not construct any new water installations without first obtaining a permit from the Israeli army, which is important to obtain as a Palestinian. Under Israeli law, all rainwater cannot be collected by Palestinians as it's owned by Israel. As a result, some 180 Palestinian communities in rural areas in the occupied West Bank have no access to running water, according to OCHA. Even in towns and villages where they are connected to water networks, the taps often run dry. And then I think, hold on, I'm gonna go back a couple slides, bear with me. Okay, so how are we supposed to believe that this land belongs to the colonizers if they cause ecocide? Are we supposed to allow our olive trees to be burned while European spruce trees are allowed to be planted and grow? Olive trees are very sacred to the Palestinian community. Any form of Palestinian culture is seen as a threat. Just as Michael Foucault said, where there is power, there is resistance. We have to take action and hold colonizers responsible. So now I want to go over some of the symbols that are often used in Palestine. So I'm going to go show you what that looks like. It's a little over. So these are some of the most popular Palestinian resistance symbols. So you see the flag, the keffiyeh, which is what I'm wearing right now, Hamdallah, which we'll get more into detail, the national work plans, the sunbird, the key of return, which is like what every Palestinian family has. So it's like the key to their doors. And since we were forced to leave our houses, we all kept our keys as a symbol of our return. The famous mosque, Dome of the Rock, and olive trees. And then the last of the symbols, so we all know the watermelon, and the red triangle. I'm sure you've seen it, but that's known to be a symbol of Palestinian resistance. Speaking of resistance, art is a form of resistance. And I'm gonna go to the slide. Okay, so art is seen as a form of resistance. And you can see that through the next couple of slides. Take Hamdallah, for example. Hamdallah was created by Palestinian artist Naji Al-Ali. Hamdallah is a 10-year-old refugee, which was the same age as the artist when he became a refugee after the first Nakba in 1948. It is said that Hamdallah will remain 10 years old until Palestinians are given the right of return. When me and my family are given the right to return to our house in Lifta, he will grow up. I create art as a form of resistance. My practices of making, expressing, creating are all ways that I choose to represent myself and my heritage. And I'm really inspired by the resistance of my people and how they choose to continue to create art on the rubble of their homes despite the ongoing bombing of their country and of their land. So as you can see here, like, these are people who literally paint on the rubble of their homes. Like, I just think that's so powerful, and like, I don't know, like, it just really speaks a lot. And going back to my artist statement, my practices of making, expressing, creating are all ways that I choose to represent myself and my heritage. My work embodies my experiences through life. I create work that's driven by my ancestors, heritage, and emotions. As a Palestinian Filipino person living in Turtle Island, I am drawn to dismantling colonialism and embracing liberation. Acknowledging those who've been forced to live under oppression and colonial siege that's been normalized by Western society culture. I admire my ancestors' resilience and courage. Processing emotions as I continue to learn about the colonization of the Philippines and Palestine, I realize that my existence is political, and thus so is my work. I challenge those to question why things are the way that they are and to take action. So now I'm going to be showing you some of the work and how it embodies my form of resilience. So here, growing up, I never really knew which side of my family I sided with more. Was I more Palestinian? Was I more Filipino? So in the center, I have a laser cut and painted heart that works as a pendulum that swings both ways. And as you can see on the top, I have the flags and myself, and me pulling myself apart in the middle. And on the top, you can see like my notes on the colonization of both the Philippines and Palestine. And you may be wondering, why is the Philippines empty? That's because, these are some of the details for the Palestine one. Fun, cute, fresh. And then and you may be wondering, why is the Filipino side empty? And that is because in the Philippines, nobody really talks about the colonization of the Philippines, and they've kind of just accepted it. Like, nobody really talks about the history of the colonization of the Philippines, and no one likes to bring up like our old indigenous traditions. So that's why that part's left blank. It's a form of like no one. It basically represents that nobody really knows. Moving forward, I digitized the map of the annexation of Palestinian land over time. I digitized it, I put it on a drawing plotter, and it drew it for me, and then I went back in and I added in details. But this is kind of to symbolize that the more Palestinian land that was annexed over time, the more blood has been shed. I made a lamp, and in the lampshades, I combined Filipino, Indian, and Palestinian art or symbols to kind of create this like cool effect. So shown right on this chair is my Baha'i Kubo symbolism, which has the piece, traditional Palestinian piece pattern on the sides of it, while in the form of a traditional Filipino hut, also known as the Baha'i Kubo. So over there is Babayan, which is the lost Filipino script that was lost due to the colonization of the Philippines, and that has my name on it. And then above that is my name in Arabic. Here is the inside of it. There's a Filipino sun, Q, and then it's kind of see-through. You can kind of see through it in the sun, which is pretty cool. And then I use it as a ring holder, so I put my rings in there. And then this is another piece that kind of represents what being displaced feels like. You're kind of overwhelmed. Like, there's a figure on the left, and then it's like he's being struck through, and there's just a bunch of rubble around him. It's kind of abstract, animated with wire. Cool. And then now this is one of my bigger works. So this painting is 42 by 84. I built the crossbar, I built the frame, I stretched the canvas myself, I adjusted the canvas 10 times and sanded it every time in between. And this painting is supposed to basically represent my experience trying to understand my identity in terms of other people's perception on it. So as you can see, I'm kind of getting lost. There are a bunch of screens which kind of represent like all the people saying you're not Palestinian, like that doesn't exist. And like you see the Filipino sun on the top, the Palestinian flag on the top, different symbolisms from both cultures. And yeah, I worked really hard on this piece, and it's big as hell. This is my other piece. So this painting symbolizes what it's supposed to feel like when you have the right of return. So when we return to Palestine, this is exactly what I'm gonna feel. Like, it's very abstract because it was for my abstraction class, but like you can kind of see like, I don't know, yeah, like people returning to what seems like an oasis. And then this is a piece that I made that kind of represents US missiles striking buildings. I made it with wood, paint, and fibers. Yeah. And then there's more photos of it. So I made this little like thing, this bloody thing over here, and then more photos of it. And then when you take it apart, it's red on the inside. Pretty fun. And then there's like a little string on top. And then here's a little installation that I did with these pieces. This is only part of it, but like I didn't really have good photos, not gonna lie. So there's that. And then these are some of the sources. And then one thing I wanted to mention before I finish is that I encourage everyone to create art as their form of resistance. Speak your story, whether it's painting, drawing, fibers, music. Like just get in touch with your creative sides, because in a sense, it is a form of resistance. And I know we're going through a very tough time right now. So I encourage everyone to seek the help that they need through We Care if needed. And if anyone else has any more questions regarding what's going on in Palestine and would like resources, please let me know. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for the talk. It can be very easy to ignore what's happening in other parts of the world, but as you just learned, it's really important to stay up to date.
If anyone wants to take their own time to learn for themselves what's going on, this would be the perfect time. We'll be taking intermissions, so feel free to stretch your legs, grab a snack, and speak to other people around you.
Make sure to come back in 10 minutes for the second half of PAACx, where our next speakers will have a chance to share their stories.